This is a stimulus update and daily news report. There's so much stimulus news going on right now. So now there are 9 House moderates who are revolting against Nancy Pelosi, threatening her, basically saying that they're not going to pass the $3.5 trillion stimulus package unless the bipartisan package is passed first. And the House progressives are basically doing the opposite, saying they're not going to pass the bipartisan unless the $3.5 trillion is passed first. So a lot of craziness going on there. I'll fill you in on the drama. I'll give you the latest of what's going on with unemployment. New states are filing lawsuits. Judges are dismissing those lawsuits. The IRS said that they sent out $15 billion in the child tax credit as of yesterday. I'll go over the schedule of who got the direct deposits, mailed out checks, and exactly what the IRS said. Also, looks like Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida has backed off from docking teacher salaries for not enforcing the mask mandates. Then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend so far. If you appreciate these fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida softens threat to withhold school officials' salaries. So originally what he said is that the Florida governor says school leaders could be denied salaries in clash over mask wearing. Basically saying that if there is mask mandates enforced in the schools, then Ron DeSantis, the governor, was going to dock people's salaries and reduce people's salaries. So now it looks like he officially backed off from that statement, and he is not going to mess with teachers' salaries, saying here, those officials should own their decision, and that means owning consequences of their decisions rather than demanding students, teachers, and school staff to foot the bill for their potential grandstanding. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Should mask mandates be allowed in schools? Should masks be a choice in schools? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Next, let's talk about the craziness of what's going on with this infrastructure bill that seems to be dragging on forever. So, moderate House Democrats threaten to blow up infrastructure negotiations. Another headline here, moderate Dems defy Pelosi and squad, block $3.5 trillion spending plan until infrastructure passes. And this other headline right here, it is moderates revolt on infrastructure in new challenge for Pelosi. So what's going on here is basically both packages, Part 1 and Part 2, are being held hostage. So the Democrat strategy for enacting President Biden's agenda hit a major snag Friday when 9 House moderates bucked party leaders with threats of tanking $3.5 trillion budget bill unless they can vote first on the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal. Basically saying that they want to vote on the bipartisan bill first before the Part 2, before the reconciliation bill. What was said here from one of those 9 moderates, which was Representative Josh Gottenheimer from New Jersey, a Democrat, he said, with the livelihoods of hard-working American families at stake, we simply can't afford months of unnecessary delays and risk squandering this once-in-a-century bipartisan infrastructure package. It's time to get shovels in the ground and people to work. So that's what they're saying. They're saying that the infrastructure package is really important, the bipartisan one, and they want to get it going right away. Now, Representative Pramila Jayapal is on the opposite side of that as a progressive, saying that anyone who votes to slow down or stop progress on this popular and necessary Build Back Better reconciliation package is voting against the president's and the Democrats' agenda. So basically saying anyone who votes against the reconciliation bill is voting against President Biden and the Democrats. Even though that first quote I read you was a Democrat, here is Pramila Jayapal talking more about that.
Is there a trust issue here? I mean, do you fear that if somehow the bipartisan deal, let's say Speaker Pelosi on August 23rd, you come back and she says, all right, I'll bring it up, let's go. Do you somehow fear moderates are going to walk away from you on the bigger bill?
Yeah, Chuck, you know how DC works. Everything works on timelines and everything works on making sure people have urgency and momentum to move quickly. The best way to keep the urgency and momentum up is to do both bills together and to make sure that everyone understands that whatever their priority is, whether it's in the infrastructure bill or whether it's in the Build Back Better reconciliation package, the way we get them done is to move them at the same time to the president's desk. Without that, you're going to have a lot of people trying to push for one piece and not voting for another piece. And that's true of progressives, but it's also true of Democrats who might not want to. One more thing, Chuck, I got to say, we can't call people moderate Democrats who vote against child care, paid leave, and addressing climate change. That is a Democratic agenda. It is the president's agenda, and it's what we promised.
Looks like chaos is increasing in the Democratic Party because there's so many different types of Democrats. As the same with Republicans, there's so many different Republicans. It's hard to fit everybody into either a Democrat or Republican box. There's so many different beliefs. So that's pretty much what's going on with the Democrats right now. They're basically saying you got to do your package before we do our package, or part one before part two before part one, which is causing all these problems. But if they just got everything done, there probably wouldn't be any issues. But it's just the delays in actually getting the voting. It's been drawn out for way too long. Here's a video clip by Bernie Sanders explaining the process of reconciliation with Republican opposition.
And that is why, Madam President, as chairman of the Senate Budget Committee, I am proud to introduce a $3.5 trillion budget resolution that we will soon be considering, I expect tomorrow. This is a budget resolution that will allow the Senate to move forward on a reconciliation bill that, in my view, will be the most consequential and comprehensive piece of legislation for working people, for the elderly, for the children, for the sick, and for the poor that this body has addressed since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the New Deal, in the 1930s. I wish that I could tell you that my Republican colleagues understand the crises facing working families and that they understand the moral imperative of us having to address climate change, and that we are working together to do, in fact, what the American people want: create millions of good-paying jobs, addressing the needs of working families and climate change. I wish I could tell you that, but I can't. As we go forward, in all likelihood, we will not get one Republican vote. We're going to have to do it on our own with 50 Democratic votes here in the Senate, plus the Vice President of the United States. Now, some of my Republican friends will say, well, that's such a bad idea. Why aren't you more bipartisan in terms of reconciliation? Well, I would remind my Republican colleagues that they didn't have a problem with reconciliation when they gave almost $2 trillion in tax breaks to the very richest people in this country and the largest corporations. No problem doing that. They didn't have a problem with reconciliation when they tried to throw 30 million people off of the health care they had by abolishing the Affordable Care Act. So that's where we are. We are facing a crisis facing working families. We need to create millions of good-paying jobs. We need to tackle the existential threat of climate change. We need to expand health care and Medicare so that elderly people have dental care, eyeglasses, and hearing aids. We need to lower the cost of prescription drugs and have Medicare negotiate prices with the pharmaceutical industry. We need to make sure that we get doctors and nurses and dentists into underserved areas. So, Madam President, tomorrow begins one of the very important debates that we have ever had. And the question is not complicated. Do we have the courage to stand up to powerful special interest and tell the corporate world and the 1%, yeah, you are finally going to have to pay your fair share of taxes so that we can create millions of good-paying jobs for working families, so we can protect our children, protect the elderly, and address the threat of climate change?
So what are your thoughts on what Bernie Sanders said? Just a reminder, Bernie Sanders was one of the 28 lawmakers who want to make stimulus checks recurring in Biden's infrastructure plan, which brings us through a segue to what's going on with a fourth stimulus check. This article just came out saying, fact check, is a fourth stimulus check going to happen? At this point, there is no fourth stimulus check in that reconciliation bill. But to be honest, that reconciliation bill, the Part 2 human infrastructure with all the stimulus provisions, that is probably going to take several weeks to happen. They could put it in. Everything that is on the table right now is not set in stone. Things could change, numbers could change, things could be taken out, things could be added in. So I'm not saying that a fourth stimulus check could be or will be added in, but the possibility that it can is still available. Next, let's talk about what's going on with unemployment. So U.S. jobless claims total 375,000, falling for a third straight week. So this is actually on par with what the economist said, which is a good thing. That means less people are filing for jobless claims. When it comes to all those lawsuits with the $300 per week unemployment boost, so it looks like a judge dismisses lawsuit filed against South Carolina Governor McMaster for ending pandemic unemployment. And I've seen this in a lot of other states too. So although lawsuits are happening, judges are just either dismissing them or granting them access. It really depends on the state here. Next, lawsuit filed to bring back federal unemployment benefits in Missouri. So they're the latest state to bring back the unemployment benefits. And then there's a big issue going on right now that affects a lot of people. So if your employer fires you because you won't get the COVID vaccine, don't expect to collect unemployment. So basically there's a lot of vaccine mandates going on in the job place. Facebook, Google, Disney are requiring vaccines in order to work. So what's happening is that if somebody refuses to get the vaccine and they get fired, supposedly they're not eligible to collect unemployment for that reason of leaving their job. But there is a GOP proposal which would allow for unemployment pay for employees who quit job over vaccine mandate. Now, this is just happening in the state of Wisconsin at the moment, but I could probably see this as a trend among other Republican states, probably the same states that canceled the unemployment benefits early. Looks like they would probably have some type of unemployment pay for anybody who refuses the vaccine mandate, because it seems that Republicans are pro-vaccine choice compared to vaccine mandate. Next, let's talk about what's going on with the child tax credits, which were sent out yesterday. So Treasury sends $15 billion in August child tax credit payments. What was said here is today, 61 million children across America are benefiting from the advanced child tax credit, helping families put food on the table and meet the needs of the next generation. So this is the official IRS announcement right here. Basically saying families now receiving August child tax credit payments, still time for low-income families to sign up. So if you are not signed up, if you didn't file your taxes 2019, 2020, you could use the non-filers tool so that the IRS has your information. They know exactly where to send that child tax credit. So basically $15 billion was sent out. It was sent out on the 13th just because the 15th falls on a Sunday, so it was sent out Friday the 13th. And when it comes to direct deposits, what it's saying here is direct deposit payments hit the account on August 13th. And then when it comes to mailed checks, it's saying that mailed checks, where'd it go? For those receiving their payments by paper check, be sure to allow time for delivery by mail through the end of August. So if you're expecting a paper check with the child tax credit, you could get it at the end of August. Also, what it's saying here is that if you did receive direct deposit for July for the child tax credit, 15% of the people are going to actually get a mailed paper check for August. So even if you got direct deposit in the past, you could get a paper check in for this time and vice versa. So it looks like they said they're going to try to fix that issue for September. And that's the next payment is going to be September 15th when it comes to child tax credit. Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Heather Brissett asks, what's up, Heather? So when one claims taxes for 2022 for the child tax credit, when they don't normally claim taxes, will child support take it? I don't owe, but they say I do in another state, so that's why I'm asking. I've been trying to fix this issue since they took my son and my checks. It's crazy. So yeah, I actually looked for that. I went on Google. I saw your question in the past too. I didn't get to address it, but I looked on Google. I couldn't find anything about child support taking the child tax credit. I did see that it is protected from debt collectors, but I couldn't find anything about child support. So I'm really sorry about that. I did try to look. I couldn't find anything. Next, Lethal Harmon asks, what's going on with the housing program? They're saying that they're not accepting any more people. So certain rental assistance programs are still accepting applications. Some of them are not. If we go to the website, if you're interested in rental assistance, if you go to nlihc.org for rental assistance, you could see it's listed by state, and then there's different counties here. And on the right here, you can see it says accepting applications. Some of them, like in Alaska, applications on hold. And I've seen some of them, if you scroll down, like applications, let's see, yeah, right here. So Irvine, California, program closed. So some rental assistance programs may be closed. Some are still accepting applications. If you haven't yet applied, I think it's totally worth it. There's $45 billion which will go out. They're not going to take that money back. They're just really slow with still getting it out. Next question, Deborah Adams. What about seniors and people without children? Unfortunately, yes, seniors and people without children, single people, are kind of getting the bottom of the barrel in terms of not really getting much stimulus. A lot of the stimulus programs are going out to families, people with kids, but when it comes to SSI, SSDI, any other Social Security recipients, people whose kids have left the house, people on disability, veterans, unfortunately, they're not really getting much help, which I think is a big shame. Next question comes from Thy Princess Daisy. I got the first child tax credit in July. In your last video, you said August will pay on the 13th because the 15th is on a Sunday. I haven't gotten it yet. Do you know why? So, as I mentioned before, if you got a direct deposit in July, looks like they're going to send paper checks for a small amount of people in August. So, if you got the direct deposit, you could get a paper check. If you get a paper check next time, it could be back to direct deposit. That's what the IRS is saying. Anyway, that is all the stimulus news I have for you today. To hopefully brighten your day a bit, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, it's Bella, tip of the day. I want to tell you the one thing that you should do. Do the things that scare you the most, because after you do that, you become a better person. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. Hope you have an amazing weekend. Hope you do some fun things. Do some things you don't normally do. Get a walk outside no matter how hot it is. Just get some fresh air. It's really good for you. Anyways, if you want to check out any of my other stimulus updates, you could click the link down here, or check out my other channels. You could click the link up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Be safe. Thank you for watching.